The battle for free speech and freedom of religion continues, and it's not likely to go away anytime soon. Joining me now to talk about it, look at some of the interesting cases, is John Carpay, president of the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms, joining me once again via Skype from Calgary. John, the University of BC Free Speech Club had scheduled a journalist to speak at an event called Understanding Antifa Violence, but UBC has decided to cancel the event. Why is that?
Well, Antifa is a violent left-wing activist group that will engage in vandalism and actually physically assaulted a journalist by the name of Andy Ngo. These people wear black face masks to hide their identity, and they beat up whomever they accuse of being a racist. In their sole view, and they call just about everybody a racist. But Andy Ngo was invited to speak at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver for January 29th on the topic of Antifa violence, which he himself was a victim of in Portland, Oregon, back in June of 2019. And the university gave green light, and then suddenly, just a few days before Christmas, canceled the event and said, no, we're not going to have Andy Ngo talking about Antifa violence because of safety and security. And they have not elaborated, but we have reason to believe that the university is scared of Antifa violence, and so they want to pander to Antifa and please Antifa, which is very, very problematic, because if you don't stand up to these groups and if you allow them to dictate who can and cannot speak, you've completely lost the free society. And universities, of all places, should be upholding free speech rights.
So what legal options does the Free Speech Club actually have at this point?
Well, the Justice Centre is representing the Free Speech Club, and we are in the process of getting instructions to commence court proceedings against the university, because thus far it appears the university is not changing its mind to cancel the event. And the club has spent, thousands of dollars to advertise and promote the event and to pay for the airfare to get their speaker up to Vancouver, et cetera, et cetera. So we're looking at probably filing some court papers in the days ahead and suing the university and seeking an injunction, seeking a declaration that the university is required to uphold this contract.
John, there was a free speech victory in your case against the University of Alberta. Tell me more about that.
The University of Alberta was reprimanded by the Alberta Court of Appeal in regards to a security fee, $17,500 security fee, which the University of Alberta had imposed on a small campus pro-life club back in 2016. And the story behind it was that in 2015, the campus pro-life club obtained the permission of the university to put up a stationary educational display on campus for 2 days. And there are a bunch of social justice warriors who did not take kindly to this, and they very publicly plotted on Facebook and social media that they were going to interrupt the event and obstruct it, blockade it with sheets and towels and banners, and shut down the event and make sure that there was no intellectual discussion or debate on campus. And the campus security told these obstructors, blockaders, that they were violating the code of student behavior, which they were, and yet did absolutely nothing to discipline these students, and just stood by and watched while the pro-lifers event basically got trampled into the ground, got shut down. The next year, the students said, in 2016, they went back to the university and said, we want another campus event, have a 2-day educational display. And the university said, sure, just pay us $17,500 and you can go right ahead. The university has never explained why it should be the pro-life students who merely want to exercise their legal right to express their opinions on campus in a peaceful fashion, why they should have to pay any money versus the people that are publicly bragging on Facebook about shutting down the event. Why don't they have to pay? In any event, the pro-life club took the university to court, lost at trial, but then just recently, January the 6th, the Alberta Court of Appeal issued a unanimous ruling to reprimand the University of Alberta about this $17,500 security fee.
So in other words, it's being reimbursed.
Well, it was never paid. And the sad effect was the students have not had an event in the past 4 years because, a group of students, I mean, even a group of adults would have a hard time coming up with $17,500. But if you're 20 years old and you're a university student, where do you come into that kind of money? So the club has not had, they've been able to do some things, handing out flyers and pamphlets and stuff, but they haven't been able to hold an event on campus in the past 4 years because of this security fee, which they were not able to pay.
So John, the idea of demanding the innocent side pay for security costs is happening at many universities. Is there some way to prevent this from ever happening again?
The best solution would be for each provincial government in each province to simply make a change to the law and tell these universities that they're not allowed to punish innocent people with security fees and use security fees as a censorship tool. And that if they're going to issue invoices for security, it should be levied against the troublemakers that are actually causing the problem, whether it's violent groups like Antifa or whether it's nonviolent obstruction, which is also a very bad thing for killing off free speech. But it should be the people that are causing the problem that should have to pay the security fees. And where the universities up until now get it completely wrong is that, whether it's a presentation against Antifa or it's a pro-life club or men's issues awareness, anything controversial, they punish the people that want to speak out an unpopular message by saying, well, you can't host an event on campus unless you pay a huge sum of money.
Is there a good reason that the University of Alberta Security decided not to charge any of the students for disrupting the pro-life event?
It was just a disgrace, and the university is talking out of both sides of its mouth, because on the one hand, the university says that the behavior of these blockaders and obstructors who shut down the pro-life event, somehow their behavior does not warrant any disciplinary measures, which is kind of like saying, their behavior really wasn't all that bad. It's nothing to worry about, nothing to get excited about. At the same time, the university says, oh, but the threat to safety and security is so grave and so elevated that the Pro-Life Club has to pay $17,500. Well, that's a total contradiction. I mean, either the behavior of these blockaders was bad or was not bad, but the university wants to have it both ways.
Transgender activist Jessica Yaniv is in the news again, John. For our viewers not familiar with this person and the numerous human rights complaints filed, can you share a little bit of backstory and the latest complaint filed?
Yeah, Yaniv is a person in British Columbia who is born biological male, has male genitalia, identifies as a woman, and approached at least 14 female estheticians, waxologists, and requested a Brazilian bikini wax, which is a waxing service for the genital area. And the women, many of them are East Indian, a lot of them are Sikh, but the women said, we don't want to wax male genitalia, we're declining the service. And Yaniv filed more than 14 human rights complaints against these women, subjected them to a lot of stress. Some of the businesses closed. He was demanding, in some cases, as much as $15,000 and said, pay me $15,000 and I'll go away and I'll withdraw the complaint. So he was using those tactics to extract money from these women. Finally, after a lot of ordeals, the BC Human Rights Tribunal heard 3 of the cases in July of 2019 and issued a decision in October of 2019 dismissing all of the complaints. And so Yaniv lost these complaints. But just recently, Yaniv has filed a new complaint, again, against a female esthetician, a beauty salon, and most of the people there most of the women working there are East Indians and Sikhs. And this time Yaniv is asking for a leg waxing rather than genital waxing. And the ladies have also refused that because they don't feel it's not as intimate, but it's still kind of an intimate service. And there are places where men can go to get their legs waxed, right? But Yaniv says, well, I identify as a woman, therefore I want to go to a female salon. And that is Yaniv's argument.
So does Yaniv have a legal leg to stand on in the leg waxing complaint?
It appears to be that Yaniv would have stronger grounds. However, this is still quite an intimate service. I mean, whoever's receiving it, you're usually stripped down to your underwear, or maybe you're not wearing anything at all. And when it gets to the upper part of the leg, it's just something women are not. A woman shouldn't have to provide that to a man, is basically our position under the Charter's freedom of association guarantee, as well as the security of the person. Women don't feel safe providing a service that is not super intimate, but quasi-intimate. And in our society, I mean, there's so many places to go to. This seems to be very much a political move to try to make a political statement, and we're going to bat for the women that Yaniv is complaining against.
So is there anything that can be done, John, to prevent individuals from continuously launching what appears to be frivolous human rights complaints, like you said, making a political statement, and therefore making life unnecessarily difficult for people trying to simply earn an honest living?
Well, in the long run, we need to change the legislation, right? Because right now, typically, the legislation is stacked in favor of complainants and against people, usually often businesses against whom the complaint is filed, right? So the whole system is quite biased. They appoint the decision makers, the tribunal members are appointed on the basis of their beliefs and activism on the plaintiff's side of the equation. They're not promoted on the basis of their objectivity. So these are all problems. An interesting twist in the Yaniv case in BC is that the BC Human Rights Tribunal surprisingly did order Yaniv to pay $2,000 to each of the three women who were successful in defending against Yaniv's claim. And so far, Yaniv has not paid any of the $6,000. And so we're going to be raising this with the tribunal as well, that maybe Yaniv's latest complaint should be put on the back burner until the first $6,000 are paid.
The Supreme Court of British Columbia recently made a decision that is a little concerning with regard to elementary school children. John, the idea is to force kids against their wishes to participate in certain religious ceremonies. Do you have more details on that?
There's a case of Candace Servatius versus the school board number 70, which is the Port Alberni School District on Vancouver Island. The situation there was that the school sent a letter home to parents, advising parents that there would be an Aboriginal smudging ceremony, which consists of burning sage and then waving the smoke from the burning sage over the children, for the purpose of, the school said, for the purpose of cleansing the spirits of the children of bad energy. And the mother did not take kindly to this, went to the school to ask for more information, and was told, "Oh, we're sorry, we've already subjected your kids to this." So the letter wasn't even sent out with ample notice. The problem here is it runs completely contrary to other court decisions which have said that we cannot say the Lord's Prayer in public schools because it is coercive and it's not good enough to simply provide some kids with an exemption from the Lord's Prayer because then they might feel that they're kind of pointed out or made to declare their disagreement with the Christian faith or whatever, right? So now we've come full circle. The court ruling said, well, this is not religious, it's just cultural.
But in fact, weren't there prayers that were part of this as well? How can it just be cultural then?
Well, there was also a school assembly, and there was a native elder, and there was a beating of drums, and there was a prayer said, and the prayer was said to a god of some kind. And I think if there is a Christian pastor coming into the school and saying a Christian prayer, you'd likely see objections, and you would see the school very quickly apologizing. But there's got to be one standard. You can't say that we're going to allow some forms of spirituality in the schools, but not other forms. This is not tenable. So we are considering an appeal of the decision. because the judge also ignored a lot of the facts. That the room was completely filled with smoke. The school said that the purpose was to cleanse the furniture of bad energy. The school even said that there had been a bullying incident in that classroom, and somebody hurt themselves by bumping into the furniture, and so we needed this spiritual cleansing of the bad energy that was in the classroom. I mean, if that's not religious, I don't know what is.
So John, is this the new norm? Should parents just be expected to go with the flow? That students are now required to participate in what they consider religious ceremonies, which maybe run counter to their own religious beliefs?
Well, no, parents can and should object. Here, there are some nuances in the facts insofar as apparently the smoke was not waved individually over each child. So there is a slight distinction there. However, there's lots of smoke in the classroom, and the school had stated that it was for spiritual purposes. What parents should do, though, is ask and get the information and raise their objections and make it clear to teachers and principals. If parents are opposed to this because they don't want their child subjected to a religious ritual, parents have to speak up. It shouldn't have to end up in court. And I think when parents do speak up, in a lot of cases, the schools are going to take that into account, and at least in some cases, the schools are going to modify their behavior, right? But if parents are just silent and just suffer in silence and suck it up, put up with it, that's not a good approach.
And I remember what my parents used to say too, John, where there's smoke, there's fire. John Carpay, president of the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, thanks a lot for joining me today from Calgary.
Glad to be with you, Hal.